Hi everyone, here's what's bothering me today. Remember how nearly a week ago at this point, I said in my Sunday sum up that there was just too much to cover? Well, this is one of those sections that was just chock full of really bad and terrible news, and it has to do with cops. So there were a lot of stories from that week, and I'm not sure if I'm going to include one or two updates to some other cop-related stories in this episode. But in short, there's a lot to get through, and it really just shows even more evidence for why the police should outright be abolished at this point. They are not keeping communities safe. They're not actually solving crime. They are just vicious, pernicious, terrible, violent, power-hungry madmen. And so I guess we should start with the first story, which is from October 6th. In a piece from a Guardian, it was revealed that a pipeline company named Enbridge paid Minnesota police for arresting and surveilling protesters. Enbridge picked up the tab for police wages, training, and equipment and let county police know when it wanted demonstrators arrested. Remember how I've said before on multiple occasions at this point that the only thing the police serve and protect are the interests of the state and the ruling class? Enbridge paid police who are supposedly public servants. They also paid for their training and equipment. And they were the ones who said, yeah, this is when we'd like these people arrested, and also these people in particular. That is so fucking dystopian. Now again, this ties back into the Line 3 pipeline fight that I've mentioned on a few occasions right now and continues to be underreported by the media because it is actually so fundamentally critical to the climate fight and to hopefully killing the oil and gas lobby in Canada. Which again explains why this Canadian company Enbridge decided to fund and equip and demand certain actions from police who are supposed to be, theoretically, public servants serving communities. And yet here it is in broad daylight. Nope, we actually serve the ruling class. Just like complete mask off moment. We work for the oil company. And I'll see if I can find it, but there was another video that hopefully will be linked up here from a while ago where I pointed out that I think it was Bezos and some others, hey, with all these new developments going on with Amazon and private security and different laws being passed, how soon until we have militia or National Guard being called in to defend warehouses, pipelines, and stuff like that? And then I think for the Line 5 pipeline in Michigan, that actually happened. Or rather, it was under consideration, but still. But seriously, Enbridge paid for officer training, police surveillance of demonstrators, officer wages, overtime, benefits, meals, hotels, and equipment. But they can't pay or invest to, say, not pollute the environment and maybe make the planet habitable, including for them and their descendants in the future. Just absolutely unreal. And that's the first story, folks. Next up, we have a story from north of the border here in Canada, including about a really distressing story from Toronto. So content warning, the following story talks about sexual assault and domestic violence. But yeah, and yet another reminder that cops are terrible and just abuse their power. Toronto cop accused of sexually assaulting woman who called police over domestic threat. A Toronto police officer who responded to a woman's call for help about a domestic-related threat is alleged to have returned to the victim's home the next day and sexually assaulted her, according to newly released police documents. Earlier this year, Ontario's police watchdog, the Special Investigations Unit, charged Constable Connell Quinn with sexual assault and breach of trust following a March 21st, 2021 incident involving a Toronto woman. Details of the alleged assault are contained in documents released this week by the Toronto Police Tribunal, where Quinn made his first appearance Tuesday. This is on October 7th, by the way. In addition to the criminal charges, Quinn faces 3 professional misconduct charges under Ontario's Police Services Act stemming from the alleged assault. He is currently suspended with pay. Dude showed up in response to a traumatized woman calling the people she's supposed to call for help and proceeds to enact a series of events that result in sexual assault while in uniform. Say it with me, folks. All cops are bastards. And I know that there are more terrible stories like this of cops like surveilling their exes or stalking people that they interacted with, like someone they pulled over for, a traffic violation or something, and then sending, texts to the lady that they pulled over like, hey, want to get dinner? It's like, so inappropriate. And so, yeah, this is unfortunately not an isolated incident. It is merely the most recent one in a long line of terrible abuses of power by bastard cops. Hell, even this article mentions this. In 2018, a Toronto police officer pleaded guilty to professional misconduct for sending what a police prosecutor called inappropriate texts to a woman 1 day after he responded to a domestic incident involving her ex-boyfriend. Like, what are you assholes doing? So yeah, that's an example of cops being terrible. But again, folks, we're not done here. Also on October 7th, I saw the following on Twitter. The Boston police sergeant who was caught bragging on camera about running down protesters during the George Floyd demonstrations on May 31st, 2020, has been reinstated to full active duty. So, that's charming and not at all indicative of the overall problems with policing that's currently happening in the developed world. But because we live in the bad timeline, we don't just get one terrible example of this, we got another one. Body camera footage reveals Minneapolis police officers talking about hunting civilians during May 2020 protests. Fuck these people. Hey, remember how Minneapolis cops also basically cornered a BLM activist on top of a parking garage and executed him in broad fucking daylight? I don't know, man. Maybe cops are actually bad and policing as an institution should be abolished. And most of these guys face jail time. How does one possibly even begin to reform something like that? Those are just the examples that we've caught on camera. Who knows what kind of other terrible, even worse things they've said when they are not being recorded. But yeah, I guess on with the next story. And this next story is alarming. Also on October 7th, I guess October 7th was just a day for really weird and terrible police news, apparently. In the wake of a report, Coca-Cola announced that it was stepping down from Atlanta Police Foundation Board following Color of Change public report on police foundations and corporate donors bankrolling police violence nationwide. Coca-Cola reportedly left the APF's Board of Trustees as Color of Change releases report exposing police foundation ties to Fortune 500 companies, corporate mega donors, following long-standing community organizing efforts against police violence and to stop Cop City in Atlanta. Yeah, this was apparently a long process to try and compile this, and it's a pretty damning and disturbing report. On Wednesday, October 7th, Color of Change, in partnership with Public Accountability Initiative Little Sis, released its in-depth report examining the 50-year history of police foundations and corporate partners, a relationship that has enabled police violence nationwide. The report, entitled Police Foundations, a Corporate-Sponsored Threat to Democracy and Black Lives, is an extensive study of the financial ties between police foundations and corporations, identifying ties to at least 55 Fortune 500 companies. So again, while it's good that Coke stepped down, it's kind of more like they stepped down due to pressure and being found out. They probably would have happily continued if this hadn't happened, which then raises the question, what other companies are on this board or let alone other police foundation boards? Is Amazon on any of these? So again, it's good that they're stepping down, but how many more are like this? Who's on, say, the board of the NYPD or the LAPD, or for cops that we know to brutalize people in Chicago and Portland? So yeah, this is a nice little authoritarian sandwich we got going on. We got the slice of bread that is Enbridge paying cops, then we have all sorts of police misconduct stories and terribleness going on, and then Coca-Cola being on a police board. A nice, terrible sandwich of delicious boot. It is absolutely unreal, and yet here we are. These are real things that happened in the span of 1 week. Fortune 500 companies sitting on police foundations that support cops who we know kill innocent people, unnecessarily brutalize protesters, sexually assault women, stalk and surveil women without their permission, and harass them because they're in positions of power when they absolutely shouldn't be. It is so distressing, but what distresses me even more is that this is really just the tip of the iceberg. There is so much below the surface that we don't see. How many other companies run police foundations? What cops are saying when they aren't being recorded? Stuff they do in private. It's literally just a mountain for evidence of why the modern foundation of policing is so incredibly corrupt and needs to go away. These are not good people. They're not keeping communities safer. Hell, I've talked about before in other videos that cops are the ones actually pushing fentanyl on the streets. It is so clear, and as I've said before, that the only thing that cops serve and protect are the ruling class and the interests of the state. And that is definitely what's bothering me today.